Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Crimson Flower and with me today I have a special guest called Jace, and I'll let you introduce yourself. Jace, go ahead.
I'm Jace. I'm 18. I slept natural segmented since probably I was about 12. And recently, in the past 3 months, I believe, I started sleeping dual core with one nap.
Okay, that's very interesting. And how did you fall into this natural segmented pattern?
Um, it was mostly, I think it was just I started waking up in the middle of the night and I'm watching my dog like just freak out, so I want to. He's good now. Um, Sorry about that.
No problem.
So it was just I would wake up in the middle of the night. I did it a lot as a kid, but it didn't really set in until I was about 12.
Okay,
It
so you
was,
had some like dual core segmented tendencies when you were like younger, and then at 12 it like stabilized as a segmented schedule, right?
yeah, I would say it probably correlated to the beginning of puberty,
Okay.
but just hormones changing, but I didn't do anything to stop it. So,
Yeah, sure. Okay. Um, and what's your like polyphasic experience exactly? How long did you sleep when you were younger, or like after 12?
um I probably in total slept 8 hours, 7 hours. So my doctor was never concerned. I was getting enough sleep. I never felt unrested. Like I was never like way exhausted like I was during adaptation. I was
Yeah.
felt like I was dragging myself during adaptation, but that I know that's normal, but I never just it was always just a time where I would hang out in the middle of the night. It was never very long, but just be a time for me to pick up a book. That kind of I was I was a book kid,
Mm.
and I think that I didn't really have screens in front of me contributed to the ability to just wake up. I had a natural I without knowing it, I created a dark period.
Okay. That's really interesting. How long did you stay awake between your course?
Anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, 2 hours.
Okay.
Mostly because I would have a parent come into my room and, like, just, what are you doing? Go back to bed. Except after maybe a year and a half, my mom and dad just realized, oh, okay, you're good now. Just don't wake me up.
Yeah, okay. I understand. How long were your course? Were they about the same length, or did was one of the course longer than the
um,
other?
the first one was a lot shorter.
Okay.
Uh, and then the second one, it would normally be 1.5 to 2 times the length.
Okay. That's really
And the
interesting.
length itself fluctuated
Mm.
just as, I guess, my sleep need changed.
Okay, did the lengths change like any time from? Were they different when you were younger than when you were older? Like, was the first core perhaps shorter in the beginning and then increased in length, or did the whole sleep block or sleep time increase?
I think it definitely it the first core got shorter. I used to be training to be in the WMMA,
Mm.
Women's Mixed Martial Arts.
Okay.
So that was a lot of heavy exercise. So when I was exercising all the time, my first core was significantly longer,
Okay. And
which makes sense with what I know about sleep now.
yeah. Was it like, did you compensate by sleeping shorter for your second core, or was just your total sleep time longer when you exercised heavily?
Definitely just total sleep was
Okay.
longer.
That's really interesting to hear. But you're now on dual core 1, and what
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me about that schedule?
I feel like I took the first core length that's a little shorter, and I was just able to, with a longer waking period in the middle, just stick it back on the end as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two same length cores, and
Okay.
I put the nap where I was naturally just exhausted in the middle of the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would always have this like period around 1 o'clock where I was just, okay, I can't keep my eyes open any longer.
Mm.
I'm exhausted. Even when I was sleeping, even before I started dual core,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would have this period where I was like, I feel like I'm dying. I'm so tired. So it was a very easy nap for me to fit in.
Mm. Okay, okay, that sure, sure, I can dig that. And what's your like current schedule? How does it look? How long are your course at the moment?
Um, I gotta peek at that real fast. I always like I know the times,
Mm, mm.
but the actual like, quantitative. So they're both 2.5 hours
Okay, okay,
with a 20-minute nap around 1 o'clock.
that's really cool. I haven't seen too many people adapt to a like 2.5 hour dual course schedule with both courses that length, but there have been some successes, and I'm happy to see that you're there with them.
I I definitely think my natural tendencies towards segmented helped
Mm.
a lot because if I haven't done any like really looking in like scientifically into my sleep, I would guess that over the years I've compressed my sleep cycle a little bit.
Okay, okay,
And
that's
just
also cool to hear. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Okay, but at around 3 months ago, or however long ago you started dual core one, you found a need to sleep polyphasically, or to reduce your sleep further, and why was that?
um with I started college full time
Mm.
and doing that I saw it because someone else in my class did an essay about talking about the historical significance of segmented sleep and I'm like, "Oh, I do that." So I looked into it and I found all these different schedules.
Mm.
And I noticed even just my very first night of really being awake during the middle, I really did just throw a dart at a wall. It felt like
Mm.
between Everyman 3 I looked at and I was like, "Oh, I like that."
Mm.
And then dual core, which is what I ended up with because I liked and really my first night of being awake, I realized, wow, this is a time it felt almost outside the day. That it wasn't Tuesday, it was this is me time. I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to be in this timeless void.
Mm.
I come from a family of workaholics, so I think it stabilized my need to do nothing.
Yeah, okay, okay. Ah, so you took this time that you have between the course and your like having me time. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it just let me, I could do something creative without feeling guilty.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
This is like, it's definitely in the culture that during the day you have to be working.
Mm,
You
mm.
have to be doing something productive. So having that time to even just sit and cross stitch was liberating.
Yeah, I bet it
I
feels
felt,
really healthy, like to have some alone time. No one else is awake, and you're just focusing on yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Um, let's talk about your adaptation a bit. What was it like to adapt, and what was your like struggles with the adaptation?
Um, I mostly struggled with going back to sleep. Like during in the middle of my two cores, I would be awake and I'm like, alrighty, time to exist. And then I just couldn't get back to sleep for a long time. But
Okay.
after
Okay.
a while, my body was like, oh, this is when we sleep now. We need this.
Mm. So like,
My biggest
yeah, yeah. Please continue. Please continue.
my biggest social struggle though, I struggled a lot socially.
Mm.
And just because my friends would, I've always been somebody who goes to bed early,
Mm.
but my friends are like, wow, 10 o'clock? Or, yeah, 10. Sorry, it's early for me.
No problem. No problem.
They're like, wow, 10 o'clock, you're staying up forever. And so they would try to get me to go out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've never
Okay.
been one for that, but it was just like, wow, you're sleeping later. That means you can finally join us. And I was like, no, ma'am.
Have you ever
I am
tried
happy.
like going out in between your course to hang out with your friends?
Um, I definitely like. I've never gone out,
Mm.
but I'll sit on Discord with a couple of my friends and just talk and chat, and then it's like, oh, time to go back to sleep. And that's a lot easier to leave than you're out at a bar.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, but if we go back to adaptations, you said that you struggled with falling asleep. Did you ever have like maybe in stage 3 of the adaptation some real bad tiredness that made you want to oversleep, or have you always like been able to cruise around this schedule and just take it easy?
It was normally always after the second core. I would notice, oh, I cannot get up.
Mm.
I was zombie mode on my alarm. Just, I would fall asleep I would fall asleep picking up my phone and hitting the snooze button. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I can understand that. Yeah.
Once I would get up and get moving and like get out of bed, I could normally caffeine or B vitamin my way out of it.
Mm. Oh, so you've been
Actually,
drinking coffee with your adaptation?
um, I have a one of those like fancy, not even fancy, but like one of those in-home soda makers, and I make a
Mm.
very diluted Red Bull
Okay, okay.
because I find I like the B vitamin energy boost more than I like a caffeine.
Sure, sure. And
Because
you
B
have
vitamin, it feels like my body processes it better.
okay, okay, okay. And you haven't felt like this has affected your nap, or is it such a small quantity that it doesn't really affect your nap?
I don't feel it affects my nap.
Mm.
I think, yeah, it's a small quantity.
Okay, okay. That's also cool to hear that you have your own little trick for staying awake in the morning when it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
'Cause-
Um. Yeah. Please continue.
oh, I took I take B2
Mm.
because I had and still have migraines, which thankfully they haven't affected my sleep too much, and I didn't really notice a change at all.
Okay. So you wouldn't
And
say that your migraines have become worse or like eased up from polyphasic sleep.
no, I would say they've probably stayed the same. My neurologist was actually very happy because she was on the verge of diagnosing me with hypersomnia
Oh. Okay.
because she was like, "Oh wow, you're cutting back on your sleep. That's good." She would always yell at me, "You need to sleep less. You need to sleep less." And I was just like, "Yeah, I know. I'm not going to, but once I started sleeping polyphasically, she said, "Oh, okay. That's weird." She really did just have this, I don't know why you're doing that, but okay, you do that.
Mhm. Yeah, sure, sure. I can. But if you were diagnosed with hypersomnia almost, how long did you sleep before you started sleeping polyphasically then?
I would, because I felt exhausted, I would let myself slip into like a 2 or 4 hour nap in the middle of the day.
Okay, okay, I understand. Yeah. How,
And the reason that I didn't choose siesta over dual core is because I realized how unhealthy a huge nap in the middle of the day was for me
mm,
personally.
yeah, yeah. Okay, sure. And how has this tiredness changed when you've adapted to your polyphasic schedule? Do you have the same like hypersomnia tendency to tiredness, or has it like alleviated a bit?
Um, it's alleviated in if I've been I've gotten very good at catching and timing it out so I can catch before I go into like a deeper sleep.
Okay, okay.
So I can say to myself, okay, I'm only sleeping this long. And if I find myself dragging before it, I'm like, okay, I have a nap at one.
Yeah, okay, okay.
I It was definitely more of a psychological change than just that middle of the day tiredness going truly away. I
Mm,
know during stage 3 of adaptation, I was exhausted right around my nap, and it was
mm,
very, very hard to wake up.
yeah.
There was a lot of mind over matter that I felt I was just willpowering my way through that.
Okay, sure. You mentioned that your parents, when you were smaller or younger, were like a bit concerned or felt strange about your sleeping schedule, but and that your friends later in life want to go out with you but aren't able to. But how do you feel like people have reacted to your schedule, especially after adapting to this dual core one? Do you feel like they look at you like some kind of a god, or are you just an oddball out?
Um, I feel I've always I'm a I said I was a weird. I would always tell people I was a weird kid.
Mm.
Um, I think that I would normally say because I've accidentally buried myself alive on 3 occasions as a kid. That was a little more the weird kid. But it was almost just people would be like, "Oh, a weird kid. Your sleep cycle follows." And my friends know me as somebody who I do things impulsively and then stick them through too long.
Okay.
So I think they just, even now, they just see it as, oh, that's Jace doing something impulsively and being stubbornly sticking to what comes from it.
Okay. Um, Speaking of this, have you felt like your like school performance has increased and people have been like interested in why it has increased and they're like, oh, polyphasic sleep, that's interesting, but you're strange, so I'm not going to listen to you. Anything like that?
Um, I was recently actually just talking to one of my professors who keeps saying I don't have enough hours in the day.
Mm.
And she was just saying how she just feels, but she gets home, she goes to sleep, and then she always has this part of the night where she's waking up a little bit. And I'm like, hey, why don't you just try waking up?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, that stereotypical vegan
Mm.
who's like, I have to convince people to be vegans.
Yeah.
It's how I feel a little bit. But a
Did you
lot of
manage to
times,
did you manage to convince her?
um, she was looking into it, and I was trying to choose a research paper topic.
Mm.
So I'm actually doing a very similar paper to the one that got me into polyphasic sleep in the first place.
Okay, okay.
And I'm talking about the historical significance combined with my own personal experience
Mm.
and kind of contrasting what I see in literature and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like reading Dickens and seeing those not quite like those it's the 19th century, it's the 1800s, I think.
Mm.
So, like seeing those like 1800s era writings where they start to talk about that second sleep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I completely went on a tangent there, but um, yeah, I find that people think it's weird, or they're like, "Wow, how are you functioning? Are you exhausted right now?"
Mm.
They see sleep as, like most people, they see sleep as something that you lay face down or on your side for 8 hours. There can be no change.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like sleep is it's a very taboo topic. Like even talking about strategically shortening it is very strange and people react very oddly to it, I found.
Yes, it tends to be like just, oh, I think that's weird. I think you're doing something that's not okay. And
Mm.
I'm here, I'm living my best life.
Yeah, okay, that's great to hear. Have you changed your lifestyle in any way to accommodate a polyphasic schedule?
Um, I was always somebody who I would go to sleep early.
Yeah.
So really just the going to sleep, but I, a lot of clubs meet at school during that time. Thankfully, the one I'm interested in and the one that I go to regularly is the science
Mm.
and tech club. So it was they keep trying to make like a homemade sleep cycle analyzer. We've been talking about making
Ah,
one
an
of those,
EEG,
and
or?
Mhm.
Oh, that's very cool.
So we've been trying to make, but it still is. I feel like I can't join clubs a little bit
Okay,
because
okay.
they all meet 12:30 to 2, and my nap
Mm.
is right there in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
But finding the right club, I did get to do a little bit of socializing.
Nice. Okay.
But
Have you have
yeah,
you have you considered like going for a flexing adaptation to learn to shift places of the nap so that you could then join the clubs?
I actually was thinking I get 2 months off of, and I've been talking about it a little on in the Discord,
Mm.
but I get 2 months off from school because we have a weird extended. We have 15 weeks as opposed to the normal 12.
Okay, okay.
So we have 2 months off in the middle of our 2 semesters.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of going kind of similar to a Sleep Everyman, as much as you like, but with dual core
Oh,
and
Dukamai.
just, yes.
That's very cool.
And just like, I thought, hey, why can't I just, days when I'm more exhausted, slap another nap in there at some point?
Mm. Yeah.
And it's just been, I've been batting around because I feel like if it doesn't work, the adaptation back to what I have now wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the experience of people that when you try to go for a shorter sleep and fail and go back to the sleep style you used before, your
Mhm.
repartition in the percentage of vital sleep in your core stays the same. So it's pretty easy to fall back to the schedule. It takes like a couple of weeks at most compared to the 1 to 2 months of adaptation. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really impressive to hear that you want to do Juka Mail because it's so far only a theoretical schedule. No one has been able to adapt to it. So it would be cool to see if you
Ooh.
actually do adapt to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And uh, let's talk about dreaming a bit. Um, do you have any dreams in your nap? Has polyphasic sleep changed your dreaming at all?
I almost always lucid nap, and I think that's just it started because I would say, okay, time to nap, and I would kind of just say, okay, I'm relaxing to nap, and it just naturally led into my brain was aware that I was napping, so I would lucid nap or even just very light sleep, and I'm aware that I'm laying down to
Mm,
nap. But I still felt refreshed after it. But during my cores, I don't tend to dream,
okay.
and if I do, it's a nightmare. But I've
Oh no.
actually cut down significantly on nightmares.
Okay. How
I
how?
never have.
No, please continue,
Go ahead.
No, you.
I never have. I used to. I know that it's definitely a correlation as opposed to causation, but before when I would have just natural segmented, I would have those stereotypical nightmares where it's
Mm.
like being chased or being murdered. Whereas now I get the I am terrified for no reason, why am I not dreaming, what's going on type of nightmares that are a bit more scary when you wake up.
Okay, okay. So it's like more psychological now, or
Hmm.
okay, okay, cool. How long do you feel like your nap is at the moment? Does it feel like it's 20 minutes or is it longer or shorter?
It feels very short in my head,
Mm.
but the 20-minute nap definitely just it doesn't feel like 20 minutes.
Okay, okay. So it feels like much shorter than that.
Yes, but not in a bad way.
Mm, mm.
I wouldn't say it's like, oh, beans, I only got to sleep this much, and it's like, oh, it's 20 minutes. It's, oh, cool. I guess that didn't feel like 20 minutes.
Okay, okay. That's also interesting to hear. Most people usually feel like their day nap is like longer. They can feel that their nap is 2 hours long. I've had one person claim that they felt like 2 weeks had once passed in their 20-minute nap. They were stuck in a psychological nightmare for 2 weeks, so that wasn't fun. And then they woke up and noticed that only 20 minutes have passed. Um, so
That's,
that's like pretty similar to what it sounds like your second
yeah.
core is. Yeah. Crazy how our bodies react to sleep. Mm.
Yeah, the human brain definitely does some wild stuff.
Hmm. Okay. But do you have any tips for people who want to start a polyphasic schedule?
Um, probably if you naturally sleep away, don't try to do a schedule that forces you to completely change how you sleep away. Like if you naturally wake up in the middle of the night or anything like that, don't go for Uberman.
Mm.
Don't do anything insane your first try.
Okay, so it sounds like you're for like sticking to your natural rhythm. So if you're naturally everyman oriented, you should go for an everyman schedule. And if you're naturally dual core oriented, you should go for a dual core schedule.
At
Mm.
least until you get like that, you understand how your body feels
Yeah, yeah.
and you understand. And also, even if you aren't predisposed to an actual mood disorder,
Mm.
sleep change can definitely affect how you feel.
Mm. Yeah.
So always just check in with yourself more often than you naturally would. And especially even if you don't think about your mood at all, that it's good to just say, okay, how am I feeling right now?
Mm.
Especially during adaptation.
Yeah. Do you feel any like mood changes during your adaptation? Like was there some parts that were very taxing on you, or like we talked about your energy and these things, but how was it like mentally?
Um, could you repeat that? My headphones decided to eat themselves.
Absolutely. You said earlier that your adaptation wasn't like too physically demanding. Oh, did the call quit? Uh-oh. Sorry folks, it's an intermission, okay?
I hit the button on my iPad to join the call. I'm sorry. So I
No
was looking at the list of questions
mm,
on my iPad. I'm sorry about that.
yeah, no, it's no problem.
But I would say that my adaptation was more taxing mentally
Mm,
than physically. Also being predisposed to mania, I've noticed that I have to be very careful in how I sleep because uh, sleeping less can trigger an episode of
yeah.
either depression or mania.
Mm,
It's very sleep is effective in changing your mood.
yeah, absolutely. And did you get any like sort of signs that you were nearing an mania, like the start of a mania episode, or do you like have to be careful at any times?
I actually kind of I've gotten very good at stopping them before they happen. So I did notice I was getting one maybe a month into my adaptation, just
Mm,
towards the end, and towards well, not really the end, but not in the beginning.
okay, okay.
But towards the middle end, I noticed that I was hitting one and I just kind of changed around the
Mm,
medications I take,
okay, sure.
which is, yeah,
Hmm. Okay,
which it did affect my sleep a little bit and made it very, I feel like it set back my adaptation a little
okay, okay.
because taking a sedative always would cause a little bit of oversleep.
Yeah, but you feel like you've recuperated from that now.
Yes, I feel very baseline. I feel how I would if I was sleeping the way I naturally do,
Mm, okay, okay.
mood wise at least.
Yeah. How do you feel like your productivity changed at all from this polyphasic schedule you're on right now?
I actually wouldn't say at all,
Mm,
but that's because I do treat that. I say to myself, okay, I'm not going to stress about work at all while I'm
yeah.
awake. So I don't feel like my work has really changed all that much, but I have been able to be more creative.
Okay, okay.
I've gotten into making friendship bracelets, which is it's a very 18-year-old girl thing for me to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've been more creative, which feels good.
That's good to hear that you're focusing on yourself with this polyphasic sleep. It's very interesting to hear. Okay, thank you for calling or for taking part in this interview with me.